I'm going to go from the very beginning to today.
Okay.
You ready? 50 years.
I need a couch.
All right. So starting camera one. You get good? Everything good?
Yep.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited about today. Ladies and gentlemen, my dad, Mike Ferry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. It's nice to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I admittedly have fantasized about this for a long time. So literally the other day, and I'm like, we're at the Rams game. I'm like, hey, you should be on my podcast. And your answer was yes.
Of course.
So you ready for a whole bunch of questions?
Sure.
So you're celebrating your 50th year in the business coming up next year,
Correct.
right? Right around the corner. So
I think it's actually March.
Is it March?
Yeah, March is when I started the company in 75.
75. That is so crazy. All right. So I was 5.
I was 10.
Yeah. It's going to be a whole lot of that in case you're wondering, my friend. So share with the person that maybe doesn't know the origin story. How did you find your way to this?
Well, I was very lucky. As you know, I worked for Earl Nightingale for 4 years in Chicago.
Yeah.
That'd be 1966 to 1970.
Yeah.
Then I went into real estate in Huntington Beach. I was tired of traveling. I never got to see the kids.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into real estate, and talking to Earl Nightingale almost every week while I was in real estate, because he was my mentor. He said, you need to sell a lot of homes and go out and start teaching people how to do it.
Yeah.
He said, you seem to have a natural gift. And the truth was, I didn't have a natural gift. I just felt compelled to tell the story of what I did.
Yeah.
So, I started in 74. I did probably, Tom, they estimate 350 to 400 3-hour seminars for free.
Yeah.
To learn how to get up and speak and, express yourself. And then in 75, I said, I'm tired of free. I'm going to start getting paid. So I started charging a whopping fee of $300 for a 3-hour seminar. And that first couple of years, I was doing at least 2 a day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes 3 a day.
Yeah.
It was not uncommon that I would leave the house at 4 in the morning, the one on Galatea, and drive to San Diego, do a seminar from 8 to 11, get in the car and race to San Bernardino, get there at 12:30, 1 o'clock, do a seminar until 4, race to Orange County and do one from 7 to 10 at night.
Yeah.
And then sleep in the car, it felt like, and start over the next day. So I did that for probably 5 years like that.
Yeah. I remember being picked up at Mom's house, and the 4 of us would be in the back of the car, no car seats, punching each other, and we'd be on the 405 freeway before the 73 to get to Corona Del Mar.
Yep.
You just get off on Bristol and take side streets, and literally you'd pull over on the 405 and you go, "Do you guys want to play a game?" We're like, it's like 7 o'clock at night, traffic, right? Yeah. Whatever, it's dark outside, and you would go, "We're going to play the quiet game for 15 minutes," and you would just fall asleep.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get to all of that, but take the listener back to how did you get to know Earl Nightingale, and how did you go into that sales business?
So there's a fellow that was in Costa Mesa, and I'm hoping he's still alive. Haven't seen him for 50 years, named Giles Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
And I was working with Bill Mitchell.
Yeah.
He had an escrow company in Newport Beach. I was the sales guy, and everybody went to lunch one day, and I was stuck in the office, and I'm sitting there with this at the reception desk right down off Campus Boulevard, not just a few blocks from where we are today.
Yep.
And this big stretch Cadillac pulls up in front. It was terrible color green.
Yeah.
And this guy jumps out, and he's looking at the building and grabs his briefcase out of the back seat, walks up, and he opens the door, and he said, "I need to talk to the guy in charge." I said, "I'm the only guy here."
Yeah.
He said, "I want you to listen to this." And he took a cassette player like the size of this book, set it in front of me, pressed a button, and it was Earl Nightingale's message called The Magic Word on attitude.
Yeah.
And he said, "You can buy this right now for $150. So I called your mom at work and I said, have you been paid? She goes, yes. I said, I'm going to write a check. So I wrote a check for $150 and took the program. There was 6 cassettes, 12 messages.
Yeah.
And I listened to it virtually every minute of every day.
Yeah.
And then I started referring Giles to our local customers of the escrow company. And this was probably 90 days later, Tom. Mm-hmm. Giles walks in one day and he has an envelope in his pocket, sets it down in front of me and said, here's your commission. And it was $3,000 in $100 bills. I was being paid $600 a month.
Yes.
Okay, at the time.
Yes.
So I got paid like 6 months' pay and he said, if you'd like more of that, follow me. I got right up, walked out the door, never went back.
Yeah.
And then he'd start training me on how to sell the Nightingale tapes.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in his office one day, and he keeps saying, Giles, that I was the #1 sales guy in the country. I might have been the only sales guy in the country, but I was told I was #1. So the phone rings, and Giles on the phone, he said, here, Mike, Earl wants to talk to you. Giles was the ultimate comedian.
Yeah.
Hello, Mike, this is Earl Nightingale. I said, sure it is.
Click.
And I hung up. Giles almost had a stroke. He said, you hung up on Earl Nightingale. I said, don't screw around. Yeah. It's not him.
Yeah.
Phone rings again. Giles on the phone. Here, Mike. Hello. Mike, it's Earl Nightingale. Yeah, fool me once, but you can't fool me twice. Yeah. Hung up again. Giles said, if you do that again, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
So Earl came on the phone a third time, and he actually said, what's the matter with you? He said, I've got an airplane ticket waiting for you. I want you to fly to Chicago.
Yeah.
I want you to speak at it was at that time, I think twice a year, they would do a 3-day convention for all of their salespeople. He said, I want you to come back and teach our salespeople how you're selling so many of our products. So I flew to Chicago and spent 3 days and was on the stage most of the time. All I said is, I drive by a business. If it looks like they're alive, I stop, ask for the owner, the manager. I press the button on the cassette player, play the message, and ask them to buy it.
Yeah.
So I was selling 30 to 40 to 50 of the Lead the Field programs per month at that time.
Yeah. That was big.
Yeah. And I was getting paid $75 per.
Yeah.
So I was making $2,000 to $3,000 a month. So
50% commission, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
I love it.
And that's why I met Earl. And his son, David, who hopefully is still with us, I don't know, and I were the same age. And Earl, I think he kind of adopted me because David was the heir successor to the company, but he wasn't magical like Earl was. So I think Earl just took a liking to me, and so I was very fortunate to spend time with him a lot.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, after I started the company, I was doing a seminar in San Diego at the Hyatt Regency down by the water. And I walk in the restaurant to be seated, and I look across the restaurant, and it's Earl sitting there. So I walked back and sat down. We had a wonderful evening together, and didn't see him much afterwards. And then I got a phone call one day that he had passed away.
We were at the Superstar Retreat in Palm Desert.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, like 80, God, no. It must have been like 90-something, early 90s. Yeah. I remember that. So let's go back to starting your speaking business. You once told me that there's 2 fears that everybody experiences, right? Death and dying and public speaking.
Correct.
And as the old line goes, most people would rather die than speak in public.
Correct.
So you went out, you did several hundred sales presentations, right, to kind of motivate and as an escrow officer, title officer. Then you go into real estate. So you have this ability to connect with people. When did that actually start to really click, though? Like, it's different, free versus paid.
Well, I think you recall when I went to San Jose State for about an hour. I flunked out my freshman year. The first week I was on campus, it was, I don't know what they called it, but we were registering for classes and so forth. And I see this guy standing on a podium. Mm-hmm. He's got several hundred kids, and he's yelling and screaming, and they're all cheering, and the campus police come and break the whole thing up. And after everybody leaves, I walk up to the guy and said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "Well, I'm one of the students." I said, well, what was that all about? And I remember he said, you must be a freshman. I said, I am.
Yeah.
He said, probably don't know who I am. I said, I have no idea who you are. He said, where'd you go to school? I said, in Santa Ana, California. He said, what kind of school? I said, Catholic high school. He said, you wouldn't know me. I said, well, I'm not trying to get to know you. I'm trying to figure out, how did you speak for an hour and a half with no notes in your hand?
Yeah.
So I spent the day with this guy, and he was a crazy, fanatical, early 60s, the war in Vietnam. And, he's taking me to all these crazy places in one day. And by the end of the day, I said to myself, I can do this. So I signed up for 2 speech classes my freshman year, flunked them both. I mean, as the joke goes, I couldn't lead a group in silent prayer.
Yeah.
So, I flunked both classes, came back, and went to JC in Santa Ana Junior College, and took a couple of business classes. Went to work for what at that time was Orange County Title, and worked as a delivery boy going to college. And then I was every day speaking to somebody, doing little talks for 5, 10, 15 people, and did that long enough till I finally decided this is what I have to do. So
the person listening to this, they could be an entrepreneur, they could be a real estate agent, team leader, broker, probably somebody in title or escrow or mortgages. So I think everybody can relate to that. But in the early days, did you ever feel like quitting?
I only felt like quitting Mondays through Fridays.
Right. Exactly. Usually that talk at like 7:00 on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I made the decision, which was probably a smart, stupid decision.
Yeah.
They would always ask me, how do we pay you? I said, I'll just send you a bill at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Which drove Pua crazy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pua was, for those that don't know, the kid's stepmother.
Yeah.
And it drove her crazy because half the people wouldn't pay.
Sure.
So I'd do a 3-hour seminar. Now, I had a bunch of cassettes this size that I was selling, and I was selling a lot of them. I mean, I think, I was selling more cassettes than probably anybody else had ever sold.
Yes. I know the National Speakers Association gave you that award for best platform salesperson ever.
Yeah. They had me doing seminars for what I called wannabe speakers.
Yes.
Because the money was in the products.
Always.
It still is today. The product today is coaching for you and I.
Yeah.
So, it was really just a matter of trying to figure out, how do I do a talk, get paid, sell cassettes.
Yeah.
At the same time, spend 2 to 3 hours a day on the phone calling organizations.
Bingo. Because
that's what I did. So somebody asked me a couple months ago, how did I get started? I said, everything I taught you today, I did.
Bingo.
I prospected every day, did lead follow-up, pre-qualified, made presentations, started over.
Right. We call it the vicious cycle. I mean, the person listening, there's a good chance that they've had a moment or many moments in their career where they're poor, then rich, then poor, then rich, then poor, then rich.
Yeah.
And the discipline of marketing, making the phone calls, ensuring you have a pipeline always.
That's right.
It's always been your secret sauce. It's certainly something that I have, emulated from watching you for all those years.
Sure.
So going back to the early days of the business, at what point did it click? Like, okay, this could be a real business.
I don't think I ever went through the aha of that.
Yeah.
I think I just realized that I had met a couple of people. I had met Danny Kennedy, Tommy Hopkins, Floyd Wickman, Cliff Baird, Roger Dawson, who has passed away.
Yeah.
I met these guys and gals at different events that I was hired to do. The first company that hired me to speak outside of me doing something in Southern California was Century 21 of New York. Marv Hart, who is long retired. And,
Marv Hart. Now that's a real estate agent name, right?
Yeah, that's
Marv
right.
Hart.
Well, and he was the regional director for Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, and one other city.
All the places we always want to go in December, January, and February.
It was January. And it was probably.
Can you come then? Because everyone will show up.
And it was probably 20 below every day.
Sure.
And we got in the car with my boxes of cassettes and we drove from city to city.
Yeah.
And they paid me $500 a day plus expenses. And I'll never forget, on Friday, I'm in Rochester getting ready to fly back to LA. and I had a check for $2,500 in my pocket, and I had probably $6,000 in orders for all the products. And I said, I think I'm onto something. You got to get out of Orange County. You got to do this nationwide.
Yes.
So then I started calling nationwide.
So looking back, it's funny you mentioned competition, which I want to talk about. But one of the things that has always intrigued me, and you and I have never really talked about it, was you created a brand.
Yes.
Right? So kind of
from scratch.
Help the listener understand, like, they should know at this point what your brand is. I lovingly refer to you, like, depending upon the age of the audience, I say my dad is either the Don Rickles of real estate, or I say he's the Howard Stern of real estate. And if they're really young, I go, he's the Bill Burr of real estate. Right? And everybody's like, okay, so he's funny and he's going to kind of punch you in the face. I'm like, yes. But so what was the, like, why that? Like, why that versus, the traditional speaker, like me, everybody?
Well, in the very beginning, as I said, I got to meet Floyd Wickman, who's, became a great friend.
Super dynamic.
Super dynamic speaker. And a couple of times he and I were hired to speak. It was Orlando, Florida, as if I remember correctly. Yeah. We were hired to speak together. So we had agreed that he would sit in the back of the room through mine, and I'd sit in the back of his, and we would critique each other over dinner. And I remember it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And Floyd is a great storyteller.
Yes, he is.
And he had just one great story after another. And I was taking notes. But I discovered that everything that Floyd said was funny.
Yeah.
And there were maybe 4 points in 3 hours.
Yes.
So then I got up to speak. And of course, I don't have a lot of stories. I don't have a lot of jokes. I mean, I have a lot. I just never thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I gave my normal 20 points on how to list and sell real estate. Mm-hmm. We sat down to compare notes afterwards, and I said, Floyd, you're one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, but I outsold you. Yeah. He sold more products than I did.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
So then I had to
figure out. Why do you think that was?
Well, because he was telling so many stories and getting them nodding and smiling and laughing.
Yeah.
And he said, now, can you imagine if you got to hear this every day?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was part of his presentation.
Yeah.
So I had to make a balance. But then I really, here was the deciding moment. I'm sitting at the house on Galatea, and I'm sitting there with a notepad saying, what's the difference? And it's like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I put Danny, Floyd, Tommy, Cliff Beard. Remember Cliff was great big fellow.
Yeah, the mindset guy.
Yeah, and Roger Dawson.
Yeah.
And I said, the difference between them and me, they want the audience to love them. Mm-hmm. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because my job is not to get an audience to like me, love me, trust me. Mm-hmm. My purpose is to deliver a message. But then I also discovered that they all tell lots of stories.
Yes.
And I'm not being critical of saying giving a few points.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But they don't give a lot of points. So I said, I'm going to differentiate myself. I'm going to give them more points than they can imagine. So if I never see them again, they won.
Yeah.
So I took a whole different approach.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it at our mastermind meetings all the time. Mm-hmm. I think Danielle Kennedy, who is just one of the sweet ladies of all time, it didn't resonate with her that you could be strong, give them points, and make them laugh a little bit now and then.
Yeah. So
did I tell you that I got introduced a couple of weeks ago? The guys, there's 200 people in the room, and the guy gets up to introduce me and said, I know a lot of you guys don't know this goat. And I went, geez, he's got a goat in the room. I'm looking all around. And then he says, the greatest of all time. Then I'm looking around saying, geez, who's here?
Jordan's here. Awesome.
Well, I thought Tommy Hopkins had shown up.
Right.
Because he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But see, I can tell a story like that and get people to laugh without telling a joke.
Yes. So one of the things that I loved going to see you in like the early days was you would get up on stage and you would poke them and you'd chide them and you would encourage, but you'd also kind of call them out.
Critique them.
And like the only people I see doing that at scale are like the modern day, comedians. Like comedians have always done it, right?
Yes.
Never screw with the guy with the microphone, ever. But I had never seen anybody do that with an audience before. And now maybe it's because I was, first time seeing it was 19 years old. So I didn't have the exposure, but even for the next decade. So I think about today, like, what we just went through, this cancel culture environment where, I almost feel like you could have never gotten away with that stuff.
Yeah.
Why did you start? Why did it work? You became either the most hated or most loved person in the speaking business. And the people that hated it, you're usually the ones that were getting poked.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not that I didn't care.
Yeah.
But I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was there to deliver a message. I was being paid a fee to deliver the message.
Yes.
My job is to deliver the message.
Yes.
So I kept that foremost in my mind.
Yes.
If they liked it, I'm okay. If they didn't like it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
So I wasn't attached to the outcome, as you've heard me say time and time again, when it comes to an audience. But I think that the difference was I knew that if I stayed on the path of Danny and Mike and Tommy, that I would be limiting myself to being one of 6. I wanted to be one of 1.
Yes. Yes. That's a good insight for the people listening right now. A market of 1.
Yeah, a market of 1.
Yes.
And the word branding didn't exist at that time.
Yes.
But I knew if I was going to make a name for myself where I would not be, which I did for almost 10 years, making 25 calls a day, every day, 5 days a week, trying to get booked.
Yep.
If I was ever going to get off that track, I had to have them call me. And they had to call me for a specific reason. We heard about you. Here's what you said. Did you really say that? Can you get away with that with our audience?
Right.
But so since the woke generation, for the last probably 2 months, I've been starting my talks with, I am so excited. We can start talking honestly to each other again.
Yes.
The woke generation is asleep.
Yes.
And they're not getting up.
Yes. Yes.
And about half the audience,
depending upon where you are in the country or in the world.
And half the audience, yay.
Yeah. Exactly. Bring back Don Rickles. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if I ever told you. I spent 2 days playing golf with him.
With Don Rickles?
He was my partner in a tournament.
Oh, my goodness.
And
how did I miss that?
It was at Mesa Verde Country Club.
Yeah.
Bill Mitchell had set up some kind of a tournament.
Yeah.
He got some celebrities. I wasn't one of them, but they drew my name and I was his partner. And I am telling you, we laughed.
Oh, for sure.
For 2 full days nonstop. Because once he found out what I did, he said, well, how do you make an audience laugh? I said, I copy your material.
Exactly. I stole all your stuff. I mean, okay, so for the person that's listening, if you don't know who Don Rickles is, you have to Google that person today. You think about all the famous movies he was in, but him on Johnny Carson, when he would just make fun of Johnny the entire time, or him, Frank Sinatra, and Johnny Carson on stage at the same time. And he's just busting Frank Sinatra the whole time. Like it was brilliant.
Or doing it to Dean Martin.
100%, 100%. But that's, for the person listening, it is the Andrew Schultz would be a good comedian to think about as a point of reference today. Okay. So let's talk about mentors, early mentors and the impact that those people had on you.
So the first mentor, I didn't know what a mentor was.
Sure.
But the first person that I really chose to follow was Earl.
Yes.
And Earl introduced me by mistake to Mike Vance.
Yes.
So Earl would do his twice-a-year meetings for all of his top people.
Yeah.
He had asked me to come and speak, and the speaker before me was Mike Vance.
Yeah. And
I'm sitting in the front row next to Earl, and Mike comes out and speaks, and it was electrifying.
6'4" with the hair.
Yeah.
That big hair he had.
Oh, yeah. It's a basketball on top of his head.
Exactly.
And, I could not believe it. And he actually, at the end of his talk, looked down and pointed at me and said, meet me behind the stage.
Yeah.
So I met him behind the stage, and he said, nobody has ever focused on me the way you did for that hour and a half. He said, why'd you do that? He said, in fact, his exact words were, are you on the other side?
Are you hitting on me, Mike Ferry?
Just my name.
I love it.
And he said, let's have lunch this week. Where do you live? I said, I live in Newport Beach.
Yeah.
He said, I'm in Marina Del Rey. Maybe at the Marina City Club at noon for lunch.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off.
Oh, for sure.
And then about 3 months later, he introduced me to Dr. Gunther Klaus.
Gunther.
So I had this decision to make.
Yeah.
They both wanted me to join their companies and be a minor partner in their companies.
Yeah.
And I chose Gunther because he was a business guy.
Yeah.
I loved being with Mike because he was so intriguing with creativity and the thoughts that he had. But I knew that I could never do that type of speaking that he did, but I could do the type of speaking that Gunther did. So I got lucky. I had Gunther, Mike, and then they both, Gunther and Mike, introduced me to Larry Wilson.
Yeah.
Wilson Learning Institute.
Of course.
And then he introduced me to Chris Hagerty.
Yeah.
So it just, it was just a multiplication effect.
Okay, so I'm looking at Stephen. So I got to meet all of those people, and Mike Vance became like a coach and a mentor for me. Larry Wilson,
that's right.
I went through his 3-day course because of you. I mean, I just bought a copy of Sell 'Em by Gunther Klaus.
Oh, I've got a copy sitting on my desk.
Yeah, it's sitting at my house in Dallas, and I was like, I saw it online. I'm like, buy it, eBay.
Yeah.
I got to get that. So when you look back at
Let's repeat that. The book is called Sell 'Em, SELL-UM, by Gunther Klaus, and I can't remember the co-author. And you can tell it was written in the 70s because the print is about that big.
Exactly.
I mean, if you normally put 750 words in a paragraph, he put 2,000 words in a paragraph.
And wasn't Gunther, was he a professor at UCLA or
PhD,
an adjunct? Yeah.
He taught management at UCLA.
That's right.
And that was just what he called a gig for something to do when he wasn't speaking.
Yes.
But Gunther was interesting because, I've repeated this and people go, no way.
Yeah.
He would do a program in Mexico City on Monday. But on Tuesday, he had to be in Tokyo.
Yes.
And on Wednesday in Berlin. Thursday in Paris, and Friday he wanted to be home with his daughter. And he lived that kind of a life.
I know.
He had this big mansion next to the Wrigley estate in Beverly Hills in Bel Air. And the first time I went, he invited me to come up and spend a Saturday afternoon with him. I mean, this place was like 15,000 square feet, 6-car garage, couple of Rolls Royces, fancy cars, butlers, maids. I'm going back to Newport Beach later that day saying, you better pick it up.
Living in a 3-bedroom, little L shape with a pool in front, but you had a nice ocean view.
Nice ocean view.
Yes. My room was on the backside. I had the pool.
Yeah.
So what, if you looked back, and let's just take Earl, let's take Mike, let's take Gunther, and let's take Larry. What's one insight or lesson you learned from each one of those guys?
Well, Gunther was the one that taught me, you become what you think about most of the time. And he had learned that from Earl, which I didn't know that he had studied Earl 100 years before.
Got it.
Earl, of course, was the absolute genius at taking a book and finding 500 key points in a book.
Yes.
So he really got me into reading all the time.
That one.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, that's right. Think and Grow Rich. I've probably read it 100 times.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, it's Mark and Jamie and Grimm.
Yeah.
So they're staying at our place in Las Vegas.
These are our golfing buddies in Scotland, yes.
Yeah, if you like to golf, they own a company called St. Andrews Golf and Travel.
Yeah.
Which I was very lucky to help them start. So Serena bought me an original copy signed by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
She paid, I think, $20,000 to get this book.
Yeah.
We have it encased on my bookshelf in our house.
Yes.
We walk in the door, and there's the three of them. They got the book off the shelf, and they're thumbing through this book. I almost had a heart attack.
Put the book down.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Earl is the guy that got me to read because he was reading 300 to 400 books a year.
Right.
Gunther gave me the whole concept of you become what you think about, which he really had taken from this type of a book through Earl Nightingale. And of course, from Mike is think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Here's what Mike would say. If everybody's going in that direction, go the other.
Yep. 180 degree theory.
That's right, 180 degree theory. So and then of course from Larry, I learned the 4 personality styles.
Yes.
Which I studied nonstop.
Yeah.
I took a 5-day course with him. That would have been probably 1980.
Yeah.
At Balboa Bay Club.
Nice.
And there was 20 of us in the class. In fact, I'll tell you a cute story. The guy sitting, there was 20 people in the class. We were sitting in a square, and Larry's in the middle. And the guy next to me was going to be my partner for the day. So Larry gave us the questions to ask, and then we had to determine what the personality style of that person was. So I talked to the guy for 15, 20 minutes. He talked to me, and we went around the room, and I stood up and I said, I want to introduce my friend, blah, blah. And I said, he is 100% analytical. Mm-hmm. He jumped up and said out loud in almost a fit of temper, I am not analytical, and I can give you 15 to 20 reasons why. And Larry Wilson almost had to sit down. He was laughing so hard. But the guy flew like a Blue Angel type of jet.
Yes.
Well, an expressive flying a jet.
Yeah. I'm a little nervous right now.
Yeah. So I learned, really, that was probably one of the most important things I learned from the four was what Larry taught me.
Yeah. Yeah.
On how to, and that really helped me dealing with an audience.
100%.
You know,
dealing with the different personality types, styles, approaches. And today we deal with boomers and Gen Xers and Gen Ys and Gen Zs and, you know.
And goofballs.
Right. And goofballs and analyticals and drivers and amiables.
And then real estate people.
Yes. Who's got a question? And like, well, let me tell you my entire story. I was like,
stop.
Is there a question inside any of this? we both been there. Okay. Going back in time here. I believe something you taught me early on is the pivot, the adjustment. It's the, the zeitgeist, like know where things are going. And so I was making a note. I was talking to Kath this morning. And I'm like, I remember when I joined Dad, like he would ask me to fax offers to people. Like, and I mean, offers like come to this event, buy this product, right? Yeah. Then Jay Abraham got us our first 800 number.
Yep.
Then in 1995, for $1 million, we launched MikeFerry.com, which is just insane, right? Email marketing. So you've always been able to pivot and adjust and make the transition. Looking back, what do you think would be like the most important transition you've made in business, pivot, adjustment in business?
The fact that I knew that I had to make adjustments in the business was probably the most important adjustment I made. Mm-hmm. And I made that early on. Mm-hmm. Because even though you and I speak virtually all over the world, an audience in Russia, which we haven't been able to speak to now, unfortunately, because the war, is no different than an audience in 100%. Spain, which is no different than an audience in Montana.
Right.
They all have their own traditions.
Sure.
But the basic sales process is always the same.
Yeah.
And what's funny
but boy, do they all tell us, you don't understand. Yeah, it's different here.
Yeah, it's different.
And I'm like, are there sellers? Are there buyers? Do we try and put them together on some reasonable price? They're like, yeah. And I go, tell me more.
Well, the first time we went to Russia, because we have a company there in Moscow, as you know, and we're walking down the street. We're staying in this hotel, and the event is in this hotel 2 blocks away. And we walked by people that were dressed as army men with machine guns. And I said to the guy that was our partner, who still is our partner, I said, guys are carrying machine guns. He said, that's so people don't get hurt. I went, never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
You know, who's going to attack a guy with a machine gun?
Yes.
A guy that doesn't have a brain.
Yes.
Or soon won't. So, you know, I felt that my key to success was I could change depending on where I was. The message remained the same.
Yes.
But my approach, because remember, attitude, approach, expectations.
Mm-hmm. Unpack that.
Well, the attitude, of course, is I'm going to give them things to do. They are going to like some of them, not like some of them. If they do any portion of them, they're going to have more business. Mm-hmm. That is, I believe that more than anything else in the world.
Yes.
If we take 500 great people sitting in an audience, there's 500 different beliefs as to what they think they should
100%.
do. I am going to convince them to do it one way. That's the attitude I have.
Yes.
My approach depends upon where I'm speaking, the size of the audience, if I'm able to.
How much time you have,
et cetera. If you have 3 days, you and I can really change an audience belief. So the approach is, but then expectations. I expect 100% of the people, and I tell them this to start the seminar. Yeah. I expect 100% of you to do 100% of what I say. And on day 4, if both of you do it, I'm excited.
Right.
Because that's the reality of the business.
Creating a detailed business plan is like building a launch pad. No matter where you are in your business, we have a plan for you. It's time to lock in your trajectory for a successful 2025. Your business plan is waiting for you at tomferry.com. All of the best players have the best coaches. You and your business are no different. It's time to get in the game. Find your real estate coach today.
You have so many of those, and we skipped over one earlier, and I want to bring it back up. I think it was Pat McVeigh. Show
Probably.
Up, pay attention, tell the truth, don't be attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
Unpack what's the origin of that, and how does it apply to someone today?
I can picture the guy that taught Pat that, and I cannot remember his name. He was a speaker at the time.
Uh-huh.
Pat had went to a seminar and came back and taught that. So show up, and then it was physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yes.
If you're going on a presentation, be there.
Yes.
Make sure they understand you are there for them.
Yep.
So that show up. Pay attention, because you never know if they're looking off one direction. Are they paying any attention to you? Are they responding by nodding their head? Are you asking questions to get them to pay attention? So show up, pay attention, tell the truth. Folks, you may not like anything Tom and I teach you today, but it's going to work if you work.
That's right.
And then don't be attached to the outcome, which is, of course, is if somebody does it, hip, hip, hooray for you and I and them.
Yeah.
But if nobody does it, it's my job.
But people are so attached to the outcome.
Because they don't have enough potential.
Tell me more about that.
Well, they don't. So I said to an audience last week, if you have one listing presentation a month, do you actually think you're good?
Yeah.
How can you possibly refine what you say? You can't. You have no clue.
Yes.
If you're going on one a week, you're much better off. But then if you're like some of the people you and I coach that are going on 2 or 3 or 4 a week, you really can perfect how to get them to respond to you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're attached to the outcome because you don't have enough potential outcomes.
I think it always goes back to, again, that vicious cycle. Pour, work your face off, do whatever it takes, open houses, make phone calls, light fires, right? Now you have a pipeline of business, you got a couple closings, you're a rock star, but you stop doing everything that got you there.
That's right.
And you fall off.
That's
and then you have to start the same cycle up. And I ask audiences all the time, like, how many times a year do you go through that? And the average person says 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes 5.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, my goodness, like that is such a solvable
problem.
Just we say, so I do 5-5-4, right?
Yeah.
Which is just talk to 5 past clients every day, talk to 5 new people every day, and do 4 follow-up calls because the sales cycles are getting longer and longer because the cost of money. So you got to follow up because all the money's in the follow-up. And they all go like this, what's the first 5 again? And I give it to them and they go, oh, okay, got it. What's the next 5? I give it to them. What's the next 5? And then they go, okay, what's the next point? I'm like, no, we could just stop. If you just did that, if you just did that,
that's right.
you would eliminate, we're always going to have ups and downs, but the goal is to be like this.
Well, see, I do 5-5-15.
Oh, I like
That's what
it.
I teach.
What's the 15?
Well,
I'm
first of all,
this.
it's okay because I stole it from somebody else.
Exactly.
Because there's nothing new.
Right.
5 past client centers of influence, 5 buyers and expireds.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I like
and
it.
15 just listed, just sold around either your listing or sale or somebody in your companies that's never going to do it.
I love it. I love it.
So if you're making 20.
So you're doing 5-20, 5 past clients and 20 new people, right? I
that's
love that.
Yeah. But if you talk to 20, 25 people a day, I mean, unless you absolutely walk up to the door, they answer the door, can I help you? You're not going to sell, are you? Even if you do that 25 times a day.
No, we are.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Go in a different direction. The Superstar Retreat.
Yes.
50 years coming up, right? In July in Vegas.
Yes.
Steve-O and I are going to be there, right? All my sibs, all the grandkids.
That's right.
What was the inspiration to create an event that was just for the best agents?
Danny, Tommy, Floyd, all the people that were my friends and competitors specialized in new licensees.
Yes. Yeah.
So I said, well, if you're going to all specialize in new licensees, which there are always tons of them.
Exactly.
I'm going to search out and try to find the top producers. And I'm going to say the top producers, if we can increase your production by 5%, what does that mean to you financially?
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing 75 deals a year. if I could add 7 to 10 and I'm making 15, 18,000 per deal, I said, if I got a program for you.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. I was just doing the opposite of what I was taught, 180-degree theory, of what the rest of the people did.
Yeah.
And what's fun is...
Kind of worked out.
Yeah, pretty well. Well, I remember I was sitting at Coco's restaurant with Floyd. And
in Fashion Island?
No, actually,
the one PCH?
The one right off MacArthur at the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's gone now.
Yeah, Le Cocoa, that French restaurant you took us to all the time.
So I said to Floyd, I'm going to do this event. He said, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
They'll never show up. I said, well, there's two thoughts. One, if they buy a ticket and they don't show up, it's really profitable.
Yes.
Number two, if they do show up, it's profitable for them.
Yes.
So that's how it starts. We've been doing them for, 35, 40 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Desert Springs Marriott.
Yeah.
Well, first you were in Newport at the Hyatt, right? The Newporter?
We did the Hyatt Newporter the first 2 years. Then we did the Marriott Fashion Island for 2 years. Then we went to the desert.
Yes.
In fact, Pooh and I are driving to our little home in the desert. And I look over to the left as we're heading to the, I said, oh my God, they're going to build a hotel here. So I stopped and to the guys in the trailers and said, what's going on? Marriott's going to build a 900-room hotel. Give me the phone number.
Exactly.
And I booked our first event probably 2 years before the hotel was finished.
88 or 89?
You know what? Sabrina asked me that all the time, and I don't recall. I think it was.
I want to say I thought it was at the first, and that was 89.
Probably it was either 88, 89, because I did the first one in 85. The first 4, 85, 89.
Yeah. Steve and I celebrated my 21st birthday at Costa's, the nightclub there, 3 years in a row.
21st birthday.
Your Uncle Matt would just hand me his license.
Yeah.
Show it to him. All right. So let's go a totally different direction. The person listening, it's not the same, but it's the same. You and I have spent all this time on the road and also running a business.
Yes.
And it is hard, in my opinion, to run a business effectively from the road. And yet we've both done it.
I don't know any other way to do it.
Well, so the agent listening is going to say, well, I don't travel as much as you guys. But no, you do. You're in your car. You're going on appointments. You're meeting with buyers. You're going to closings. You're doing everything you do in your business. And it's I don't know who said it. It may have been like Gunther who had the world famous line, most entrepreneurs run seagull management. They fly in, they crap all over everybody, and they fly away
out.
Again.
That was Gunther.
Right? So for the person listening and for you and I, what do you think is the secret to being highly productive on the road, being in sales, running a business, but also running an operation back at the office?
Well, I've always said you have to run an operation, you have to run a business, you have to be on the road, and then you have to at some point remember your home. Yeah. Which is the real challenge, okay? Because, I remember, I don't know if it was probably 95, I actually figured out how many days I was at home. Mm-hmm. I used to tell audiences, I gave name tags to my kids so I'd know who they are when I walked in, and I put a name tag on myself.
Yes.
Oh, Uncle Daddy's home.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a combination of...
You come home and you put your credit card down to check in.
Yeah, that's right.
A sweet, please.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't know if I have an answer for that because I've never been as good at allowing people that I've hired to make the big decisions. Mm-hmm. I've always kept it. The last 20 years, it's been Sabrina and I. So she's been the rock that keeps that thing moving forward, if it's going to roll at all. Yeah. So I don't think I have a good answer. I think it's just how badly do you want to do X number of seminars per month or programs per month or events per month? How much do you want to...
Listing and sales per month, right? Yep. Same exact thing.
How do you plan on generating that business? How much will be repeat referral? How much is it going to be through your marketing and branding? How much is going to be call-in? How much is going to be referrals? So, you just... You answer some basic questions, and then you delegate to whoever you have that has the ability to. See, what's interesting is our management team at the company in Vegas is 7 people. And I think, Tom, I might be a little off. 6 of them have been there between 12 and 15 years. So we have a good structure, so I don't have to worry about it. And then I have Sabrina to really manage it,
The German.
The German, 100%.
Seb would love Sabrina, you're watching this later, right? So, okay, switch gears. You once said to me, your income is in direct correlation, right, to the problems you solve and the solutions that you bring and the service you deliver. And then if you read like all the books that we read, everyone talks about the same thing. The bigger the problem, the greater the payoff, right? Solve a little problem, make a little money. Solve a really big problem, you can make a fortune. Looking back over your career, what would you say are some of the big problems that you were able to tackle and solve?
Getting people to do the things that I thought were the right things for them to do. So, you keep looking for all the different words and phrases, gestures, stories, examples to get them to get an aha moment.
So I got Tom Toole, Jamie McMartin, Byron Lazine, Levi Rogers, Stephanie Younger, Dustin, like a whole bunch of my clients that I was last night like texting with on this text group. That was the question they wanted to ask you. Like, how do you get people to do stuff that you know is right for them, but they struggle to see it?
If you ask enough questions, and you know this, in my seminars, I ask more questions than I do make statements.
Yeah.
And if I keep asking questions of the audience, the light bulb is going to either go on or they're going to turn it off permanently and then go away and not come back.
Yeah.
So the key to, I think, of being a great speaker is not the stories you tell and the examples you give. The key to being a great speaker is the questions you ask.
I agree.
So, I start every seminar with, I'm going to ask you to write 3 things down. Take a lot of notes. Second, ask a lot of questions. Third, laugh a lot because it relieves the stress you're going to feel when I teach you what to say and do.
Yeah.
And then I'll usually tell a story, very simple, to make them laugh a little bit. And then I say, let's begin. I'd like you to write down this question. So, you've seen me do it. I'll ask. I think somebody figured out one time that in 3 hours, I ask an audience over 100 questions.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So I always think that the driving force behind a Mike Ferry seminar is getting them engaged in answering for themselves
100%.
Mentally.
100%.
And whether they are nodding their heads like you and I expect, or they're looking at us like, where did they come from, Mars?
Yeah.
I've got a response.
Yeah. And then turn to your neighbor and tell them what you're thinking right now. They're like, I need to make more phone calls.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Or one.
Yeah. Or phone call.
Yeah.
So at what point do you give up? Staying with, the leaders or the salesperson who's listening right now, sales leaders, they struggle with this, that, I told them once and they did it a little bit and it worked and then they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
Is there a certain point where you just say, this isn't right for you? Or do you just keep fighting to get them to change the behaviors?
My very first client is somebody that you know very well, is still a client today. And we're going to be celebrating our 50th anniversary, he and I, in March. That's
crazy.
Neil Schwartz.
Neil, love it.
So now Neil, let's see, I'm turning 80. Neil must be 74, 75. And he started as a sales guy, became a sales manager for Jim Emery, started his own company, sold the company to Randy Thompson, is enjoying life more than ever. Now
playing a lot of pickleball.
Oh, playing a lot of pickleball. He and Debbie. Well, he's not playing as much because he got injured playing, but Debbie's playing more than ever, So, my job is to retain. So if you look at the process for a broker, team leader, manager, recruit, retain, retain.
Yeah.
But if you can't retain without confrontation. So recruit, retain, confrontation, then keep training.
Yeah.
So as long as they will participate, I'll never give up on them.
I love it.
We have clients that and I know that we've been with us 30, 35, 40 years.
Right.
I
think that I would just say for my friend listening is we talk about the word commitment, right? And the old line, are you interested or committed, right?
Yeah.
Interested is I do it when it's convenient.
Yep.
Committed is I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I could make the argument, and I know you could too. It is hard to stay committed all the time.
Yes.
Like sustaining commitment, sustaining like a streak of doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Everybody's going to break now and then. I think the key is just helping them get that first day?
I think the key is the time between breakdown and recommitment.
Oh yeah.
You gotta lessen the time.
Yep.
And I use the example all the time of professional athletes.
Right.
Okay, they practice 30, 40, 50 hours a week to play our 1 hour game on Sunday. And they are 100% committed until they miss the tackle. And then the guy that they missed, because the guy was faster and got around him, there is a moment where they're saying, geez, I can't believe I let that guy tackle the quarterback. So now they have to recommit. But if they don't recommit within a matter of seconds, they're out of the game for 4 or 5 plays.
Every pro athlete, next. Next.
You ever noticed when they get called for a flagrant foul of any type, they're immediately taken off the field? In fact, they don't get taken off. They know they're off the field, so they just run to the sideline. Because the coach doesn't want them carrying that thought forward.
I was trying to think of who, I think it was Kevin Garnett as a rookie, started like trash talking Michael Jordan in a preseason game.
Yeah.
And he said,
good luck.
He said, I was cooking. I was making, Jordan had like 5 points. And he said, me and J.R. Ryder we're beating up on him. And J.R. Ryder's like, hey man, don't say these things to Michael Jordan. He goes, then all of a sudden, it was a 6 minutes of that. He scored like 25 points. He said, I had 4 turnovers. He said, I couldn't make a shot. He goes, I'm sitting there on the bench going, my bad, JR, my bad. Right. And you have to be able to stay in the right mindset, not screw around, do the right thing. But again, we're talking about like sustained commitment. So I'm gonna go totally.
Well, but just let me finish that thought.
Finish it, because I'm gonna go a totally different direction on you.
They all have the breakdown.
Yeah.
It's how long they allow it to take place.
Right.
So you and I have done a seminar. We've done the morning session from 9 to 10:15.
Yeah.
Couldn't engage them. Couldn't get them involved.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we slept bad. We woke up and our neck was sore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called real life.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you do after the break?
Bingo.
So am I going to allow that to go till noon?
Yep.
Or am I going to stop it right now?
How many 3-day events you do the first day and you're like, people are like, oh, today was great. And you're like, I sucked.
Yeah.
I've done that myself where I'm like, and then the next day I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Like reset. You got a chance to reset, which is great because every person watching, you go on that one appointment. It doesn't go the way you want it to go. How fast can you reset?
Yeah.
Right. How fast can you get your mindset right? Okay. Random. You ready?
Go ahead.
Favorite book of all time?
Oh, Think and Grow Rich.
All right. Favorite movie of all time?
I haven't been to a movie in 20 years, so I don't think I can answer that.
All right. Favorite song of all time?
I'm not a music guy.
Favorite singer of all time?
Andrea.
Yes.
Yeah, by far.
Yes.
The last 12 years hanging around with Andrea and Veronica has been a life-changing experience for Sabrina and I.
And what did he make you do recently?
So we're having dinner at Andrea's house, he and his wife and his kids. It was his 65th birthday or 66th. Mm-hmm. We have a beautiful dinner, and he said, let's go to the music room. So we walk in, and he's got a piano that a Chinese client had custom made for him. Mm-hmm. It's probably the biggest piano in the world. Mm-hmm. And he sits down and he goes, Michael, do you know the song My Way? I said, kind of. Mm-hmm. He said, I'll play the piano, you sing. I said, me sing? You're Andrea Bocelli. Yeah. He said, yeah, but I'll play the piano, you sing. So he started playing the piano, so I started singing. He started laughing. So he stopped and said, okay, let's do this. Come here. You sit down, you play the piano, I'll sing.
Yes.
I don't know how to play the piano. He said, well, then you know what? You keep doing seminars, I'll keep singing and playing the piano.
You told me that story. It was priceless. Okay. Favorite comedian of all time?
Favorite comedian? I love comedians. Rocky Laporte.
Rocky.
Remember Rocky?
Of course.
Haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah.
People have asked me, why did I like Rocky?
Yeah.
He could get as much response in 15 to 20 minutes as a great comedian like Shoemaker gets in an hour.
Obviously, I was thinking of Shoemaker, right? Good golfer too.
He is hysterical. Totally different thinking process than a Don Rickles type of comedian.
For sure.
But Rocky Laporte, I mean, in 15 minutes, I hurt.
Oh, yeah.
From laughing.
Yes. Yeah. Old school. Favorite son? Just kidding. All right. Looking back.
Yes.
I was waiting for you to say like Reagan and Michelle.
Yeah.
All right. Looking back, 50 years, would you have done anything differently?
Well, there was no marketing campaigns, branding campaigns that we know today. We were using Xerox machines. There was no voicemail. There was no texting.
A lot of phone calls.
A lot of phone calls. So I don't think I would have changed anything. I might have been, I could have been better at the pre-qualifying because, 25% of the time I was speaking to an audience that had not had any breath injected in their system in years.
Yeah.
So I probably could have done a better job pre-qualifying, but then I wouldn't have got the experience that I got doing all those seminars that weren't very good.
Yeah. Future of real estate agents.
We have one.
Yes.
I don't think anything's going to change. Nothing has changed the last 50 years of consequence. I mean, financing has gotten better. Technology has made a huge difference. But, I said to somebody yesterday, they're projecting 3.7 million closed transactions this year with 1.6 million agents. The purpose and productivity has sucked for 50 years.
Yes.
But the biggest difference, and you and I both know this, the percentage that are doing is shrinking, but they're doing more than ever.
Yep.
So the industry that used to be a 50-50, 50% made it, 50% didn't, is probably 90-10.
I got to show you some stats later. We did a research piece with my friends over at F&F at the, let's call it till January to August 1st. It was 1,111,000 agents.
Yeah.
0 listings sold and closed.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then the balance, 1 to 4, 5 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 44, and then 45 plus. And there's only 2,364 agents that had 45 plus listings sold. And I think you and I know every single one of them. I mean, it was remarkable. But the stat was 22% of all the agents controlled 72.6% of the listings sold and closed.
Yeah.
And, we can make the argument if you and I were partners, right, we'd only use one MLS ID. So I say, okay, so maybe a few of those agents, yada, yada, yada. But the other one was like half the agents in the country hadn't had a closing. Forget a listing sold, a buyer sale.
That's
so
right.
To your point, it is, I've never seen it at this level, my 35 years, of just the rich and everybody else.
And there is no poor. It's just there's nothing.
Yeah. Rich and the rest.
What's amazing to me, and I say this all the time, especially to the brokers that you and I work with closely, why would you hire a person that you know is not going to make it?
Yeah.
Because in the interview they're not going to make it.
Do we? I mean, okay, think about it. How many times have we met someone and,
No, we've been shocked.
That we're like, you look out and you're like, she's got it, right? Oh, that guy, right? This could be your last seminar, right? We would make these sort of in our head jokes. But I've hired salespeople that I thought not a chance, and then they turn out to be one of the highest performers.
Yeah, but that's the exception.
I don't disagree, and I think that's why they do it.
Yeah.
It's that or they want to get mortgage, title, escrow.
Yeah.
Right? Sell your house and use our escrow company and title. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly, recruiting salespeople always and forever is the only game in real estate.
That's right.
Right? And there is just doesn't appear to be a magic wand to say, I'm going to solve this problem and magically have everybody become successful.
I tell brokers recruiting solves every problem you can have. I tell agents prospecting solves every problem you could ever have.
Yeah.
But for both of them, I'll say, if you know what to say, you can do what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
If you don't know what to say, you don't recruit, you don't prospect.
Knowledge equals confidence.
Yep. Ignorance equals fear.
Ignorance equals fear. That has stuck in my head. I did a speech the other day in San Antonio, Dad, and another professional speaker was in the room, and he's like, you're really charismatic. How many times have you given that presentation? I said, well, it's the third time I've done it today. He goes, well, where did you speak this morning? I said, in my hotel room.
Yeah, that's
he goes,
right.
He kind of like looked at me and I go, dude, I got 145 slides. I said, and I'm practicing a bunch of new stuff. I said, so, I went through it twice, once sitting, once standing. And then I got ready and came down here and delivered it a third time.
Yeah.
Right. And you kind of see him looking at me like, I was like, practice.
Well,
right? Know what to say, know how to say it, know when to pause.
Yeah. common thing I hear from other speakers is, you've done that same talk how many times?
Yeah.
I said thousands.
Yeah.
Why don't you change it? I said, well, because it works.
Yes.
And they said, well, yeah, but that audience has already heard it. I said, does a pro baseball team practice?
Yeah.
I said, these agents are re-engaging, re-practicing.
Right.
They're still shooting free throws in their off hours.
For sure.
You know, they're still trying to be on the putting green making 10-foot putts.
Yeah.
I said, that's part of the game of being a professional.
Yes.
So we have to do the same.
Yeah. And open houses are open houses, and calling expired is calling it expired.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
and obviously, like, the market dynamics change, and we're all fluid to, you know, what's happening in the world and what's happening in the environment. Okay, I got a bunch of rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay.
You're on the hot seat,
Okay.
even though it's freezing in this studio. So you ready? Prospecting. Why do most agents resist it, and how do they get over it?
Well, first of all, they resist it because they don't know what to say, which means they get rejected all the time. And the only way to do that is to change the script in their head about the results, and then learn the script that you and I teach so they can get good results.
Bingo. All right. How does one think bigger?
Expose themselves to ideas, thoughts, and people that they've never had exposure to, and accept the fact that that person started where they did.
Damn, that was a really good answer.
Thank
All
you.
right. How do you lead others to do the work?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How do you lead others to do the work?
By doing the work, showing them that you know how.
Yeah.
If you're the leader of the pack, be the leader of the pack.
Yeah. Most fun sales experience you've ever been in? You've been in a lot.
Cancun, Mexico.
Yeah.
The other speaker was a guy that I've known for years. And we both performed, and then we switched audience, performed again. Then we went to lunch, and then the guy said, we're going to take the afternoon off. So they had speedboats for water skiing.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Parasailing.
Parasailing.
Yeah.
So this guy said, I'm going to try it. And we had probably 500 people from the audience sitting on the beach. We were doing like mini seminars. He takes off. And all of a sudden, something happens to the boat, and he drops real fast. Well, he was wearing his wig. By the time he hit the water, the wig was over there, he was over here, and the audience was applauding.
I think I know who this is.
Yeah, somebody swam out and got the wig and handed it to him. It took me months not to get that image out of my head.
Is this the same guy that we did the race cars with?
Yes.
He was like, oh.
Yep.
I'll be right back. And he went to the bathroom with his helmet.
Okay. He took his helmet off and his hairpiece came off.
Oh, not to be named. That guy was classic. Okay. Your best sales day ever?
Best sales day would be one of the retreats.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can identify the day, but where we've done 250 to 275 premier coaching contracts.
Yeah.
With an audience of 1,500.
Yeah.
And I don't think most of our audience knows what that means, but it means a lot of money.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of when you called me and said, the boxes of tapes did not show up. So I stood up in front of an audience and said, in this hand, I'd like you to imagine, and you sold a ton of product. I'd like you to imagine over here 6 cassettes teaching you how to think bigger. And over here, I've got over-the-phone training. Like that was...
I think it was in like Fresno or Sacramento or someplace where that took place.
Yeah, just that for me is a priceless moment.
So the strangest thing that ever happened...
Oh, let's go. Okay, you got it.
Okay, I was invited, I think it was Sacramento Board of Realtors.
Yeah.
And how many people are you going to have? We're going to have 300. I show up the night before. The program chairman and the president greet me at the airport. Yeah. Take me to the hotel. We have a wonderful dinner. We look at the meeting room, 300 chairs. The next morning at 8:45, there's the president, chairman of the committee, and me.
Yeah.
I said, we're missing right now 298 people.
Yeah.
Well, they all come late. 9:15, there's 2 people plus the 3 of us. So there's a total of 5. And the president said, we probably should start. I said, you know what? There's a Denny's across the street. Let me get a table for 5. I'll buy you breakfast and we'll just talk for a little while.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the, and I sold all 4 of them a set of cassettes.
That is
so I had 100% sales day.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the first time I spoke in Italy, and it was coming off the day before I was in Munich, Germany. So Munich, Germany, it's 8:45
Yeah.
There's 400 people in the room, and they're all sitting like this.
Waiting.
Start.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah.
And Baron von Volker Weissenberger.
Yeah.
Walks up
Irish guy.
And he walks up, he says, Tom, before you start, no jokes, no stories. Just tell them what to do. And I go, Volker, I'd be done in like 3 hours. We have like a 6-hour event. He goes, no jokes. It's efficient. If we're done in 3 hours, that's good. Bang, right? The next, like 2 days later, you were with me on this. We go to where we must have been in like Milan, right? Yeah. Somewhere outside of Milan for Dario.
Yeah.
And so the event is supposed to start at 9. So I'm down at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And there's no production team there. There's no no one's there. And I'm just by myself in this giant ballroom for like 2,000 people. And I'm like, am I in the right ballroom? You know, start looking around. Okay, it says Remax here. So I'm in the right place. Around 9:15, the production guy shows up and I'm like, hey, are we starting at 9? And he's like, oh, bippity boppity boop, right? So, okay, cool, right? So I get my laptop set up, all that stuff. And around, I don't know, 10:30, Dario comes walking in. Oh, baby, hey, here we go. And I'm like, hey, man, were we supposed to start at 9? And he's like, oh, it's Italy.
Right? Yeah, it's Italy.
So they all, I think at like 10:45, they're all outside smoking, drinking, cappuccinos. Yeah. They all come in, but we have to stop promptly at noon because it's lunchtime. Right. I mean, all those kind of crazy experiences.
So the first time we went to Moscow to speak, he had 600 tickets he sold.
Yeah.
We got there at 8:25 for a 9 o'clock start because we had walked a couple blocks. There were 600 people in the room.
Yeah.
All the men were in suit and ties.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies were all dressed in professional attire.
Yep.
They're all sitting with their pen and their scratch pad at 8:25.
Yeah.
And I said to Vladimir, am I late? He said, no, we like to start on time.
Yeah.
I said, that's 35 minutes from now.
Right.
We start on time.
Yes.
But they were all set, ready to go. But then, I've done programs in the U.S. where at 10 o'clock, they're still walking in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Very common.
It's the Swiss, the Germans, the Austrians, the Russians, and none of them have a clue compared to the Japanese.
That's right.
They are precise. Everything will be on time.
Yep.
Everything's going to be organized. I love it. Okay, random questions. Funniest moment ever on stage? Funniest thing that either happened to you or funniest moment?
Well,
you've had thousands.
It was funny to the audience. It wasn't funny to me.
Yeah.
They thought it was part of the program. Lake Tahoe, one of the big hotels in the theater.
Yeah.
So there is a big stage that's up about 20 feet and then the band pit and then the audience. I'm doing my speech, walking back and forth, and I stumbled and fell 20 feet into the band pit. Dislocated my shoulder, cut my knee open. They're applauding and cheering. They thought it was the funny. I had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
They thought it was the funniest thing they ever saw. Bring that guy back. We want to see that again.
That guy's good. I was thinking, tell the story of you woke up late, you ran downstairs, ran into the room, grabbed the microphone.
Okay, so that was at LAX. I flew in from New York. I got in about 1 o'clock in the morning. Went to bed, got up to get 6 o'clock to go exercise. Yeah. Seminar started at 9. I woke up at like 5 to 9.
Yeah.
Threw my clothes on, ran downstairs, running down the hall. I looked to my left and there's a guy standing there with a room full of people with a microphone kind of going, So I just ran in, took the microphone and said, I'll begin. He said, great. They were taking notes. They were laughing. They were asking questions. I was speaking to the wrong audience. There was not a lady in the room. And I kept looking at this audience and said, I've never had an all-male or all-female audience.
Right.
And I was speaking to like the National Chiropractors Association by mistake. I mean, it was the strangest thing ever. And they really enjoyed it.
Yes.
The people in the right room weren't as happy.
That's one of my all-time favorites. Favorite place to speak?
Favorite place to speak? Any place in Las Vegas because I'm home.
Exactly. Favorite person to share the stage with? On stage, but you know what I mean? Like this lineup, this speaker, that speaker.
Well, the most fun speaker I ever did, and I did a lot of events with him, was Mike Vance.
Yeah.
Because he was so engaging.
For sure.
Yeah, the first time I saw him speak was, I told you, with Earl Nightingale.
Yeah.
So they had the curtain behind us, and he came out through the center of the curtain, did his talk. Everybody's standing up applauding when he's done. And he goes back through the curtain. And then all of a sudden he pulls the curtain back, sticks his head out, and goes, bye, and closes the curtain. You know, the guy just did things that just made me laugh all the time.
He was crazy.
Yeah.
He was so much fun to work with.
Yeah.
So much fun. I actually downloaded all of his audios and all of his books into my AI.
Oh, that's smart.
And I'm now, like with 11 Labs, going to get it where I can actually hear his voice and have conversations with him.
Yeah.
I got to show you that. It's crazy. Okay. If you can wave a magic wand and change anything in the real estate industry, what would you change?
You cannot get your license unless you have 5 years of direct sales experience in some other industry.
Wow.
Because the average audience you and I speak to, maybe 3% of the audience has any experience in selling.
Yes.
It would shrink the number of licensees, which NAR would be against because NAR is a dues
NAR
collecting.
associations, boards. Yeah.
But the productivity and the service and the quality for the public would improve dramatically.
Right. If you look at the bureaucracy of what it takes to be a hairdresser in the state of California versus a real estate agent.
Well, look at your sister, my daughter,
right?
Reagan.
Right. I mean, it is way more intense. Well,
didn't Michelle go through that same experience? Didn't she? At one point, there was something where she had to study for 2 years to qualify for the job.
I don't remember.
We'll ask her that tomorrow.
I talked to one of our clients in the Netherlands a couple of days ago. So I said, so Martin, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? He says, hiring people. And I said, how many people do you want to hire? I really need like 5 salespeople. I said, who do you want? I said, there's agents, new agents. What do you want to do? And he goes, Tom, in the Netherlands, it takes 2 years and $7,000 to become a real estate agent.
Wow, that's good.
2 years, $7,000. Like that's different. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? I said, so, all right, so let's go after existing agents, right? Because that's just going to take forever. Yeah. Okay. It's tomorrow's Thanksgiving. What are you grateful for?
I'm sorry, what are
you grateful for?
Well, first of all, I'll be with you and Kathy and the boys, and second with Michelle and her husband.
I'm grateful for my memory at 80. Yeah. Ron. Sorry, Ron.
Yeah. Actually,
editing.
But actually, Ron's not going to be there because he and Sean are skiing.
Because they're up, snowboarding.
So then I'm just thankful to be with the family.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree. I agree.
You know, and as you know, my oldest son and your brother, they don't celebrate holidays. So, you know, it's happy turkey if you're having one.
Yes, exactly. You know? So you're gonna be 80.
Yep.
We're gonna go to Scotland next year, play some golf.
Yep.
Finally do that together, which is gonna be super fun.
Yep.
So I wrote down this question: what are 5 things you want to do before you're 90?
Wow, live to be 90.
Number 1.
Number 1, be alive and celebrate.
Yes.
Probably number 2 would say if I could. I thought of this morning driving over. Mm-hmm. What would you like to do when you turn 90? I thought that might be a question to ask.
Yeah.
Do my last seminar.
Yeah.
On my 90th birthday.
I love it.
Probably number 3 is to get all the kids together more often.
Yeah.
For the audience, I have 5 children. Sabrina has 2. We have 11 grandchildren.
Yeah.
So the name Ferry is probably not going away for a while.
Yes.
So spend more time with the kids, you know. And I don't know if there's a number 4. So
I figured you'd say at least shoot your age.
But better than shoot myself on the foot, you know, with a lousy putt.
Exactly.
Let's see.
Yeah.
You know, at 90, Fred Shaker still can shoot his age. He's 91.
Right.
But Fred is a close friend of mine in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I've known him since we first moved there 20 years ago.
Yeah. Good golfer too.
Talk about a success story. He started a little grocery store in Cleveland, and it succeeded. Then he bought the shopping center. So then he opened up another grocery store and bought the shopping center. Then he bought things like driving ranges and cemeteries. And then he bundled them all up, you know, but Fred's 91 or 92. I think he sold everything by the time he was 50, moved to Vegas, and has lived the life ever since.
That's great.
Yeah.
Buy more real estate, my friend.
Yeah.
Buy more real estate.
That's right.
Last question.
Yes.
What's your legacy?
I've never got into that kind of stuff. I know what I'd like to have on my headstone if I'm buried.
Yeah.
He made a difference.
I agree.
So if it just says Mike Ferry, he made a difference, I'd be happy. But I won't know if they put it on there because I won't be here.
I was thinking we'd put on there, and when do you plan on moving?
Moving. Yeah, that's right.
Wouldn't that be great?
Ask the right questions. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. This was great. Now let's go play
pleasure.
some golf.
Let's go play some golf, which is what we're planning on doing.
Hey, so send this to a friend, and I can't wait to read the comments. Notice I did not do that at all, so I can't wait to see the comments on this show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Your legacy is, I was talking to Gino yesterday, and he said, Mike Ferry has brought discipline to an industry that lacked discipline.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I thought that was a very nice way to articulate it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you. See you soon.
Bye-bye.